Hello legends, today we are going to be discussing this range right over here, which is a little bit confusing. I must be honest, I'm no longer in any trade position throughout the last few days, and this range could still be corrective. It could also be the end right over here on Thursday at 94.2, and we're just building a few 1-2s, which both scenarios are starting to extend a little bit and get into the low probability. So, either for the bullish or the bearish, I need new information so I can get into a new high probability trade setup. Guys, a quick reminder, none of this content is financial advice. None of my videos should be treated as financial advice or investment advice. I'm just a guy on the internet, and this should be treated as educational only. Guys, remember that down below in the description, you do got some great deals, okay, here with Bluffin and BTCC. Those are my favorite exchanges that I use, okay? Make sure to take advantage of the links down below, okay, for Bluffin, or even the decentralized platform, which is Velto, guys. Check out the bonuses down below in the description. Now let's dive right away through the 1 hourly time frame, because what we can discuss in this range is, we maybe have a finished ABC movement. We already have, from the lows here of the 21st of November, a 3-wave corrective structure. It is true that when we do zoom out, we are in a downtrend. All of these bounces that we've had have ended up being 3-wave structures, as you can see, right? 3-wave to the upside, and then only to follow continuation to the downside. And it does give a very, very good chance that, the price could be peaking out somewhere in this region at $94,000 to $96,000. However, what I want to explain eventually, obviously the bullish case scenario, which is very much a possibility, which is just building up multiple 1-2s. But what is most important right over here is the high in, or is this still part of a corrective structure? And I have to say, this is, sometimes in your trading journey, no matter how good you are, and, you're in that very, very good in the zone, right, where you're getting into epic, predictions and scenarios and trading setups, there are moments that you have a confusing range, right? Which you're giving the chance for the bulls and the bears just to prove themselves. So once you have another plan, which is the one that I want to create, obviously today with you here on this video update. Later we'll be doing a live stream, guys, in about 3-4 hours from the upload of this video, which we will be going more into detail to figure out the highest probability movements on the 5-minute time frame. That's when we go to the meat and potatoes, right, and actually figure out what could be the highest probability. But on this video, I just want to let you know that I'm not interested in getting into a trade setup here. If I don't have a high probability scenario, which I am confident that the highs are going to be taken, or that we are going to break down here, fill this fair value gap, right, and finally break down, and I want to get into a short safely with good risk management, I'm giving the probabilities on both sides. I know there is a chance that this, still could be developing a fourth wave, even though this fourth wave is extending a little bit in time. I would say that this would be, arguably a sideways complex WXY, which we can go in detail later on the live stream. I don't want to go too much into detail right now because there's a few scenarios and it's just very messy. The problem here with Elliott wave theory is eventually you start getting, you have 4 or 5 different scenarios, and you want to start eliminating those scenarios till you get to the highest probability one which you want to actually trade. In this scenario, we still have many of them, right? Which I want to explain right now. This can be counted as a sideways complex WXY. And I would say, obviously the wave 4s are usually extended in time from your wave 2s. However, this is already getting pretty long, right? Which is eventually, if we are going to take out the local highs at 94.2, it would have to happen today. If we are still continuing ranging here, then I would say that this is well off, and there's low probabilities that this pushes to the upside if we are considering this a wave 4 already. I would rather say that this is a zigzag up, and you have a corrective structure here, and you're forming another zigzag to the upside. But we'll get to that later on the live stream. We're now just focusing on the potential of the price moving up from here. So wave 4s are usually extending in time compared to your wave 2s. However, it is getting a little bit long. It is getting a 4 or 5 times longer almost than your wave 2s, and it's also already moving out as it's an independent wave right now, and it's not part of an impulse. So that is eventually affecting the probability. The timing is affecting probabilities right now. However, when we do take a look at the bearish case scenario, from the local highs here of yesterday at 94.1K, there's no solid way to count any kind of impulsive move down here. The only scenario would be a multiple 1-2 setup eventually that would break down in a third wave, and then you're forming your 4-5s here, throughout the next coming hours once you got that breakdown. However, the second, third 1-2s here, as you can see, they are extending, especially the last one, the fourth one, is longer than the previous ones. And this is where you need to be a little bit cautious, basically, on the probabilities. This is why, I am leaning on, the price might break down or it might break up. However, you need a plan. If the price starts moving up here in a wave 3, wave 4, wave 5, that's the moment that I would class this corrective structure finishing here. And I'm interested in looking at the impulsive move and obviously classifying all of this as a possibility 5-wave structure. So I need the price to start breaking out the zone, the range, right? And I can see that this would be the low. Once I get that information, I know that a third wave is in the development, right? You get that stop in the fourth wave to then create that fifth wave. That is where I'm interested in looking for a short position at levels of confluence. And the levels of confluence that we do have is basically the $95.5 to the $96,000 range, where we do have, the anchored VWAP coming into that region. All right, the anchored VWAP from the lower high created here at $116,000. When we do get that anchored VWAP, we can see that it is coming in here at the $95,200 range approximately. We also have a naked point of control. That naked weekly point of control is sitting at 95.5. And then if we add some more confluence, we got that lower high right there at 95.9K. Now, when we do zoom in, eventually that is the zone of interest. So if we, I'm a little bit in doubt here that could this be, even though it's extending a little bit in time, this is where, the probabilities are decreasing on this scenario. I need to see some kind of a 5-wave move to the upside here. I would prefer it to be today eventually, in between today and tomorrow. Of course, the weekend's coming, and the weekends are usually low volatility. So it would be nice to get that push out here throughout Friday, coming into this resistance zone in some kind of a 5-wave structure. We need that third and fourth wave in so we can speculate on the top of the fifth wave into the resistance. You got an SFP at 96K, anchored VWAP coming at 95.2K. So this is the zone of interest that I would want to get into that swing short position. So I just have to wait for that scenario. Well, what if we don't pump? What if we do break down from here? Well, eventually I need that second plan. It all depends on how we move down from here. Now, I would class this movement from highs to lows that this is, I would say that this could be an independent wave. Eventually, if we do break down here with high volume and that breakout fails to get continuation to the upside, that is the moment that on this pump, I will realize that this movement to the downside is corrective. And that's when we can speculate on the multiple 1-2 setup, right? 1-2, 1-2, and then we're breaking out in speculating on a third wave development for the next coming weeks. So I need that information. I need a third wave down with high volume that actually fails to get continuation to the downside. So the price will stop at some point, right? There's not that much resistance. There's not that much support, as we do have that inefficiency of this candle. These candles don't leave much support. When you have a massive move down, you can go as fast to the upside. So I realize that if the price moves down from here, I just want to see the price stopping at some point where I can analyze the situation eventually. So we get that bounce back up and we get that overlap. That's when I would class, this movement to the downside as a corrective structure. And this would be the moment that I would be interested in looking for swing long positions eventually. I just need that information because this range is getting a little bit confusing, right? It's just, it is what it is. Sometimes it does happen. Multiple 1-2s are actually losing in probabilities because your second 1-2 here, your last 1-2 is longer in time, and that is very, very rare. There's no solid diagonal kind of structure to be developed in this range, so it is a little bit confusing. I would have to say that, if this is a 5-wave move to the upside and this is the end of a corrective structure, which I have to say it is definitely a possibility that all of this is just a very shallow sideways correction. I would class this as a possible zigzag move to the upside as well. That's when we zoom out here, and we could arguably discuss that a double zigzag, even though your wave X was very steep and it does lower the probability, I would take it into consideration if we are going to continue ranging in the next coming days and not break down successfully from that naked point of control that we got to bounce yesterday. If we do move up in some kind of a 5 waver, I would class a double zigzag a very good chance here. The resistance zone that I want to pay attention to for a short is 95 to 96K, guys. Okay, so we just need to get up there, and then, from these lows, we have to figure out what kind of patterns. This is definitely one where you have a zigzag correction and wave X, a little bit steep, and another zigzag up. It doesn't really matter, guys, if this is a wave 4 or if it's going to be a zigzag structure. It does not really matter. We need to get up there, and I need to identify a 5-wave move to the upside where I can speculate on the 5th wave to get that reversal at resistance. It's the only thing that I'm waiting for here, just to get a bit more clarity. And for the bearish case scenario, well, if we do get that 3-wave down overlap, right, then I would say, okay, guys, this is looking corrective. I'm looking to enter some longs eventually to take out $94,000 and go to higher levels possibility, right? Possibly. If it is going to be bearish, then eventually I'm looking at the breakdown, right? And then some 4-5s right there, and then the local bounce eventually, right? There could be some speculative longs if we do get that exhaustion in this range into levels of support. And if that bounce, if it is going to be looking corrective, then eventually, I'm going to speculate on that movement down, because ultimately we would be speculating on the downtrend here to continue for Bitcoin and claim $80,000. So we need that bounce. I need an impulse down, and I need that bounce. And that bounce to the 5618 Fibonacci is going to be the zone that I'm going to be speculating, right, as a back test from a high volume node, right, in this region. That is the zone that I would be speculating for shorts once we get that movement down here in this zone, waiting for the bounce, literally, to participate in the momentum to the downside. But as you see, we need a little bit of clarity. This could still be a wave 4. You could still be building up multiple 1-2s here to the downside. And, it's not a clear scenario. We need to get out of the range so then I can have more clarity for my next trading setups. Anyway, I'll be doing a live stream later on. We'll be building up a few scenarios eventually to get prepared for the next coming days. And that will be on the live stream that's going to be around about 3-4 hours from the update of this video. Thank you, and I'll see you later on the live stream.